Welcome to the Polite Conversations podcast, where every episode is focused on civility, decorum, and good manners. And I'm your lovable, non-controversial host, Ina. If you know me, you know I definitely don't like to ruffle any feathers at all.
Well. Hello again, listeners. What a wild couple of days it's been. Trump is back in the White House, and he seems to have unleashed a carnival of cruelty just in the first few days, signing a whole flurry of unhinged executive orders that seem like they couldn't possibly be real, but unfortunately, they're very fucking real. It seems like he's wasting absolutely no time in chipping away at democracy or in targeting the most vulnerable in society. Trans people, gay people, immigrants, people of color, the poor, people who need prescription drugs. Everyone is under attack, except for the most rich and powerful, who surrounded Trump at his inauguration, of course. And the violent January 6 criminals that he blanket pardoned on his first fucking day, erasing the work of the largest criminal investigation in U.S. history. Like, that is just so fucked. The fascists now in power have fooled some idiots into believing that they'll be serving the interests of the country, while to anyone with half a brain, it's pretty clear that they're getting together to rob it, to hollow it out, to grift off it, to fatten their own wallets. It couldn't be more obvious. I mean, Trump launched his own crypto coin right before his fucking inauguration, and then Melania did too. How is this blatant grifting in the most powerful office legal? I don't understand America, honestly. It feels like a bizarre caricature of a hyper-capitalist country, like a weird Black Mirror episode. And what happens in America doesn't just end there. It affects us all. And as a person from a neighboring country, I am pretty fucking terrified. And Chris fucking Rufo is in the halls of power celebrating how he's been talking to cabinet teams and how they are making lists of DEI employees to fire, which Rufo refers to as beautiful. And he's got the ear of the most powerful fascist in the world, the richest man in the world, who responded to this sentiment with fire emojis. DEI was always a stand-in for non-white, non-het, non-cis. So you know what they're talking about? All the progress we've made in decades around the world, well, seems like it'll be undone in days. Because America sets the tone. Unless a whole bunch of other countries grow a backbone and finally stand up to it. For now, I am terrified. I don't know what the effects will be economically. I'm terrified as a woman. I'm terrified as a leftist. I'm terrified as a person of color. I have been terrified as a person of Muslim background for years now. The level of dehumanization and Nazi-esque rhetoric about Muslims becomes more and more just horrifying every single day. It was already bad under the Dems, but I don't know where it'll go now. I hear the Muslim ban is coming back, but worse. And did you hear Trump talking about what a great location Gaza is in? Like, almost salivating at the property development opportunities there.
You know, Gaza is interesting. It's a phenomenal location. On the sea, best weather, you know, everything's good. It's like some beautiful things could be done with it, but it's very interesting. But some fantastic things could be done with Gaza.
Reminiscent of what Jared Kushner said a while back.
In Gaza's waterfront property, it could be very valuable.
And I'm pretty certain he's not hinting at developing on this prime beachfront property location for Gazans. Just utterly sickening times. The media is weak as shit, and social media is controlled by right-wing fascist tech bros. If you missed the techno-fascism episode I did a while ago, now might be a good time to check it out and just get a feel for the kinds of unhinged ideas these types of people have. I'll link it in the show notes. Apparently, Meta has admitted that some accounts were unable to unfollow Trump's Instagram account, despite trying multiple times. It really feels like being in a chokehold, much more so than in 2016, and I already thought that was bad enough. One thing we can hope for, though, is that many people wake up to what's happening and that this is an actual radicalizing moment for a significant amount of people. I really hope that we start connecting the dots to see how so many of our struggles are related. And the other thing I'm looking forward to is the chaos and the infighting. It's almost guaranteed, I think. With all those massive egos and massive wallets, they're not used to being told no, I'm sure, or disagreed with. And Trump is unpredictable. He certainly doesn't abide by any civility norms in politics. So that will be interesting to watch. Look, I don't have much positive to dwell on here, so I'm working with what I got, okay? Speaking of infighting, though, if you're a patron, you will have seen the recent Sam Harris versus Elon piece I wrote there. If you're not, well, you should become one, so you can access all the fun Patreon exclusive posts as well as the extended episodes. Elon has been quite the topic of discussion lately. We'll talk more about that in a bit. But let me just read a little sample from my Sam versus Elon piece before we delve into the other stuff. A little amuse-bouche for what's to come. Okay, let's get into it. The current post-apocalyptic social media landscape was dotted with takes about these two fools yesterday, a constellation of cunts, pledging allegiance to one or the other. Claire Lehman of Quillette was one of the first I saw out there, agreeing with a tweet declaring themselves Team Harris. Why do my friends keep embarrassing me? Even when I'm not staying on top of my duties as a Harrisologist, thankfully I have enough people helping to keep me informed about what the Logic Lord himself is up to. At first, I didn't want to click, but after receiving several DMs, tweets, and messages, I figured I should investigate. Sam Harris was dishing out some dirt about his unhinged former pal Elon. If you followed him over the past few years, you'll know that this is certainly not the first time Sam has had to embarrassingly distance from, denounce, or dish out dirt on an old pal, simply to save face or set the record straight. His own track record is quite something when it comes to the types of people he's called a friend over the years, be it about officially handing in his IDW card or slowly, excruciatingly admitting that Dave Rubin is in fact as unprincipled and far-right as some people warned Sam he was nearly a decade ago. Sam, of course, stubbornly defended or deflected from that at the time, often deleting Reddit AMA questions that asked him about his support for and association with Rubin. Then there's Maajid Nawaz, who Sam co-authored a book with and who he once declared should be running half of society. Maajid is now an anti-vax, Alex Jonesian, bordering on anti-Semitic conspiracy theorist. There's also Gad Saad, who Sam defended during his appearance on Polite Conversations. Gad now mocks him for his Trump derangement syndrome and calls him the Malibu meditator. Gad also spends much of his time sounding like an open white nationalist, despite him being an immigrant from the Middle East. There's also Brett Weinstein, who Sam once championed as a victim of the woke mob and claimed is as left as they come. During the height of the pandemic, Brett became a completely unraveled, horse-paced hawking, anti-vax lunatic. Ayaan Hirsi Ali, the great secular feminist hero heavily promoted by Sam, has turned out to be, you guessed it, another MAGA creep who also spends her time sounding like a non-white white nationalist and has converted to Christianity, not out of some deeply held belief, but to fight wokeness. There are many, many more embarrassments I could add to this list, but you get the idea. All right, so that is a sample from the piece on Patreon. I will link it in the show notes. If you're a patron and you missed it, you should go check it out. And if you're not a patron, as I said before, you should definitely become one via patreon.com/nice mangoes. Because who doesn't love checking out some right-wing infighting? Jokes aside, though, I do think this is a time where people should really consider supporting independent leftist content creators as opposed to the obscurantist, fast trivializing, genocide supporting, mainstream Western media. Unfortunately, they're a large part of why we're here today. But the sad thing is, we do need reliable mainstream media more than ever today. So maybe if their audiences voted with their wallets and demanded better from them, they would be encouraged to do better. But going back to Elon fucking Musk, well, wow. Oh boy. Look, I've been referring to him as a Nazi for a while now because he's made his Nazi beliefs clear on several occasions, but I certainly did not expect that he would use Donald Trump's inauguration day to openly, blatantly, enthusiastically do a Sig Heil on stage. Like, twice. Not once, but twice. Just a few hours into this fascist presidency. Like, I thought he'd wait at least a week for that sort of thing. But no, that escalated rather quickly. Like, if you've seen it and you're not a desperate right-winger in denial, then you know there really is no question about it. That is quite plainly what he did for everyone to see. But of course, right-wingers, being the disgusting, dishonest, and totally hypocritical, lying, shameless slimeballs that they are actually attempting to walk this back in the most ludicrous ways. It's so silly and just plainly grasping at straws. They don't have much to back up their defense, but boy, are they trying. I saw Batya Unger-Sargon, a gross right-wing IDW-esque Newsweek opinion editor, claiming that this was definitely not a Nazi salute, because Elon Musk is a friend to the Jews. This is a man with Asperger's exuberantly throwing his heart to the crowd. We don't need to invent outrage. I mean, just, Jesus, inventing outrage? Like, what the fuck is she on about? It was on stage. Everyone saw it. There's nothing invented about it. And this is really not what heart-related gestures look like, okay? It is interesting, though, because Batya doesn't stop seeing anti-Semitism on the left or among Democrats, like, ever, especially when it comes to criticism of Israel, but will always lie and deny about the far-right, actual Nazi kind of anti-Semitism. This will be a running theme today. Elon, for anyone who's followed his antics and his disturbing trajectory, knows full well that he has an extensive record of supporting the far right and spreading wildly anti-Semitic conspiracy theories about great replacement, etc. Elon has openly supported the ultra-far right AfD party in Germany, which has been fined for using Nazi slogans and also has a history of Holocaust trivialization. Even the ADL wrote a page about the AfD, but more on the ADL later. So what a strange coincidence that Elon's socially awkward gesture, or whatever Batya is implying is a result of his Asperger's, it's just such a coincidence that this fascist-looking hand gesture is so perfectly aligned to his widely known ultra-fascist politics. And of course, not to mention how gross and insulting that excuse is to the many wonderful people who happen to be on the autism spectrum but have not turned out to be sig-heiling Nazis. That's just not a thing. Something worth mentioning here are the Nazi ties of Hans Asperger himself, the Austrian physician, the namesake of Asperger's syndrome. It's said that he deliberately referred vulnerable, disabled, and neuroatypical children to Third Reich euthanasia clinics. Like, Nazis literally tried to exterminate such people. So saying that autism can make one accidentally gesture like a Nazi or have Nazi politics is a particularly shitty excuse. Bhatia didn't think that one through, really. Funnily enough, Bhatia seems to think that leftists hate Jews because they hate white people. It's a very weird angle, I must say. One that relies on a lot of assumptions. While Elon's gesture can be seen from space almost, and his politics are also on record for anyone to see. But it's not just Bhatia. There are several of these weirdos trying this line right now. Like Chris Rufo said, "It's not 2020 anymore. You can't convince America that an autistic man sharing his heart with the crowd is a Heil Hitler salute. The era of cancellation is officially over." As if anyone could be canceling the guy that owns much of the world and has most of the power in the world on his side. But yeah, sure, sharing his heart. Maybe a Nazi salute is the traditional right-wing way of sharing one's shriveled, hateful heart, so why not both? The only reason this heart thing is coming up at all is because after Elon did the Nazi salute loud and clear, he said to the crowd, "My heart goes out to you." I don't see how that negates the Nazi salute at all, seriously, but they're gonna try it anyway. I mean, they want to embroil us in this endless debate about whether it was or it wasn't, but this is how fascists tend to operate anyway, trying to sneak in some wiggle room, some plausible deniability, when there clearly isn't any in this instance. And maybe that was the plan all along. Maybe Elon thought this was a clever, edgy, funny to him way of sneaking in a Nazi salute. If he just pretended it was about sharing his heart with the crowd. And their excuses don't have to be convincing either, because they don't care about lying shamelessly. They've already got much of the media speculating about it, not calling it what it very clearly is, and that's a win for them. They know they can get away with that sort of thing now. Then there's this other fool, G. Spellchecker. Some of you may know of him too, from the old New Atheist days. Always a weasel, always easily upset by someone so much as saying, "Nazis are bad." Quite literally, that's all it took to set him off once. He also has a track record of making excuses for Milo Yiannopoulos, trivializing what happened in Charlottesville, and a whole lot more. But his weasel tweet on this Elon thing was quite funny. A special thanks to my friend Jack from the IDSG podcast for lending me his lovely British accent and British snarky tone for this.
My take on the Musk, quote, Nazi salute, unquote. Was he actually doing a Nazi salute? No, he wasn't. And it's remarkable that much of the left are now pretending to care about anti-Semitic gestures and sentiments when they have endorsed or ignored them every weekend since October 7th, 2023.
I assume he's talking about the anti-genocide, pro-Palestine protests, which these Sig Heil defenders see as the worst anti-Semitism. How dare anyone oppose genocide and apartheid and ethno-states? Opposing all that is bad. Sig Heils? Nah, not so bad. I mean, one could easily argue that conflating Jewish people and the genocidal apartheid state of Israel is anti-Semitic in itself. But anyway.
Did Elon Musk gesture in a way that was indistinguishable from a Nazi salute, though? Yes, and it was a very stupid thing to do.
Okay, so he just said before that Elon wasn't doing a Nazi salute. But in the next breath, he concedes that, yes, it's indistinguishable from a Nazi salute, actually. Okay, so you can't blame anyone who cannot distinguish it from a Nazi salute because, as you said, it's indistinguishable from one.
However, the longer, less dishonestly edited clip of this gesture provides the context in which Elon Musk qualifies it with, quote, my heart goes out to you, unquote.
This makes zero difference, as we discussed already, and this honestly edited implies that it was somehow doctored to look like he was doing a Nazi salute when he was maybe doing something else entirely. Not that he follows up that obvious Nazi salute, which he does twice, up with a "my heart goes out to you" comment. Maybe his Nazi heart does go out to the Nazi crowd who are cheering on the fascist presidency. These are not mutually exclusive things.
Could and should Musk have known this was an incredibly stupid thing to have done regardless? Yes, but he didn't, because he is incredibly socially awkward and not particularly thoughtful about how he behaves.
There's that socially awkward excuse again. I'm sorry, but I've been around socially awkward people before, and not one of them decided to throw a Hitler salute out of awkwardness. Someone on Twitter cut the Elon Hitler salute and put it side by side with a clip from American History X and also a clip of a group of actual neo-Nazis sig heiling, and also alongside Hitler himself. And my God, it is almost identical. The chest thumping and everything. The far right have always made use of like dog whistles and hiding behind irony or harmless seeming emojis that they can co-opt. But this is next level. This was blatant. It was purposeful. It was unapologetic. It amazes me that right-wingers are still pretending there is any vagueness to hide behind here. There just isn't. But weasels like G-Spellchecker will always pretend there is. Had Elon worn a swastika armband, they'd be screeching about how it was originally a Hindu symbol and how bad faith it is of the left to misinterpret it like that. Anyway, in the final bit he says,
And now we have a situation where the left get to engage in their favourite hobby of seeing Nazis everywhere. And actual Nazis get giddy at the thought of the richest man in the world having their back. In conclusion, he probably shouldn't have done that.
So you see, the real problem here is the left. Because the left just happens to keep seeing Nazis everywhere, says a guy who minimized what happened in Charlottesville as American morons clashing with other American morons. A similar kind of both-siding as we see here. First problem, the left. And also, then, the real Nazis who are celebrating the richest man in the world being on their side. But also the wokes got to say Nazi salutes are bad, which is the real problem, actually. Both these things are bad. I mean, fucking hell. It must be exhausting to be such a pathetic bootlicker. And let's take a quick look at how actual Nazis are interpreting this awkward hand gesture. According to the Rolling Stone, the leader of the neo-Nazi group Blood Tribe posted the clip of Musk's salute on Telegram with a lightning bolt emoji evoking the SS, and the caption, "I don't care if this was a mistake, I'm going to enjoy the tears over it." Another Nazi, Christopher Hood, who founded the New England race separatist movement, also posted the clip to Telegram with a big smiling emoji and exclamation mark. Andrew Torba, the founder of the far-right Christian nationalist social media platform Gab, which pioneered AI-powered Nazi chatbots, also shared the clip on his account with the caption, "Incredible things are happening already." Thomas Sewell, an Australia-based neo-Nazi whose Telegram avatar is a picture of himself throwing a Roman salute, posted the video of Musk calling it a Donald Trump white power moment. The Proud Boys Ohio chapter posted the clip to its Telegram with the text, "Hail Trump." There's lots more, but you get it, I'm sure. If it were an incredibly stupid mistake Elon did twice, if by some miracle, let's say he didn't mean it to be a Nazi salute, if we were to completely ignore what we saw twice, even then, it would be so bad, because what it did anyway was that it emboldened and excited actual Nazis, because to them, it looked like a Nazi salute. The only people denying it are the ones who have a vested interest in making Elon seem more credible and palatable so he is free to pursue his far-right agenda without the stink of being a Nazi. But I don't know who, apart from them, is buying it. Incidentally, I also came across a clip of Elon's dad on some podcast or something talking to a non-white show host and explaining to him that Elon's maternal grandparents were fanatical supporters of apartheid, so much so that they came to South Africa from Canada and were members of, he stops himself from saying the Nazi party, but calls it the German party. It said they admired Hitler and everything. I mean, just listen for yourself.
Her parents, by the way, were very fanatical in favor of apartheid. This is quite interesting. Her parents came to South Africa from Canada because they sympathized with the Afrikaner government. They used to support Hitler and all that sort of stuff, but they didn't know.
Please subscribe via patreon.com/nice mangoes to access the extended version of this episode.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to support it, there are several ways you can do that. You can share it online, talk about what you just heard. You can leave a 5-star review to help others find it too. And you can also subscribe via patreon.com/nice mangoes. No E in mangoes. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter before it's completely wrecked, you'll find me at Nice Mangoes. Again, no E in mangoes.